it just has such a unique feel to it that I think has this incredible way of, you know that you're in Los Angeles, but at the same time, it's kind of hard to imagine that you're in one of the largest metropolitan areas in the world. There's definitely some different teeing grounds, and there's some kind of open areas where they can get a little creative as far as like putting tees in different spots. It's not a particularly, I would say, like challenging strategic course, certainly off the tee. To me, like I think it's fairly obvious. It doesn't make it easy or hard. It's not like super challenging to me, like to go and kind of figure out what your plan is out there. Certainly on 6, like that's a unique example. I mean, these are the best players in the world. I think most of the guys are probably going to end up going for it. I don't think that the course relative to par is going to be not as challenging, but it's not, I think that the score relative to par will be a little bit lower than maybe people are anticipating or ready for. It's take a drive. If you do, then go for it too. And if you don't, then lay it up and try and hit a nice wedge. It doesn't play that long. That's probably from like all the way back, like a foot in the rough back. I've always felt like that fairway kind of runs out. There's like a little bank in the middle of the fairway on the right side that kind of kicks it back. Kind of the same thing. There's a barranca in front. So like if you take a drive, you're obviously going for it. And if you miss the fairway, then you're probably laying up. I mean, there's not a whole lot there that like is a gotcha type of moment. If you're above the hole, it can be a little speedy, but again, it's the best players in the world. Like they can figure that out quickly. Sunday pins in the top right. There's more room up there than it looks, but with a 6 iron in hand, obviously, guys will probably play just short laps. There's a pin that's front right. That if you're above the hole, can get a little spicy. You're putting it back into the wind, so there's that. But yeah, typically, who knows? We'll see what they do. But the pin's front right. Maybe they move the tee up from 419 to like 407, and you probably have the exact same strategy. These are the best players in the world. The fairway's 80 yards wide and it holds to the front, for the most part. Yeah, they're kind of looking pretty there. It's a birdie hole. Yeah, the wind will be a touch like helping off the left. It feels like an island green. Front right bunker's okay, but not to a tight front right pin, right? Because it's how firm the greens will be. The last, I would say like 5th, there's a pin that's all the way back middle where it kind of falls away. But, with 4 or 5 iron, you're typically just going to the middle of the green. If you're that good, then favor the pin, I guess. But yeah, it feels like an island green. In my opinion, this is probably the toughest par 3 on the course, just simply because if it falls off, it can kind of get into an gnarly lie. It's really wide. It doesn't play that wide because it kind of falls off. It's got a lot of elements of 13 in it. Pick a palm tree in the distance. I guess there's a famous story where one of the caddies told Hogan to hit it at the palm trees, and he said which one. There's more room left than it looks. I always kind of try and favor like the left third of that fairway. Wind's helping from behind. Again, it doesn't play as long as it does on the card. And there's another front right pin there that'll be a good one. Maybe they move the tees up a little bit for that. They have like 7 or 8 iron in at least. If you lay up, the greens are just going to be super firm. And in US Open conditions, you can one hop it to the back, which is a really tough up and down to the left pins. Doable, but really tough. Back bunker's super dead to all pins. Back right bunker. The front bunker, if you go for it, is a great spot for all 4 pins. I just think that most guys, with 3-wood or whatever it may be, maybe for super long guys like 3 iron, some guys driver, but I think for the most part it'll be a 3-wood. If they knock it in that bunker, that's a good spot to be. The par 4 thing at the Walker Cup was a nice test run, but ultimately it's kind of a dumb hole. If they make it at 284, they'll probably only have it be there one day. There's another box at like 240, 245, and then there's another one at 220. There's a pin that's back right, where they'll probably move it up as much as they can, similar to 4 at Augusta. Yeah, I hit the green. If you're below the hole, it's an uphill putt. For the long guys, 4 iron, 3 iron, just hit the green. Try and give yourself good luck. Yeah, it's super reachable. Most guys are probably going to hit 3-wood. Some of the shorter guys might hit driver. There's a tee box that they might use. It's just ahead of the green on 7. It's kind of like the blue tees or the white tees. And a couple guys might try and smack it over the trees, and the target's like the left edge of the building you can see in the distance. If they do that, it's probably going to be on Saturday. For the most part, it's just it went up there the way you're supposed to play it. Try and knock enough long iron on. Right bunker's not great, but to a right pin, but it's doable. Long is actually super fine. Short, super fine. Left's not great, but you're hitting it back uphill and into the wind, so it's fine. There's a couple plateaus. There's one like middle right that's a little interesting. There's a short one that's in the front. That's a good one. There's kind of a back middle right that's also there. This is a challenging hole. It's into the wind, and it's such a different contrast, like being kind of in the trees and these what you feel like, in the chutes of the front nine. But you kind of get up there and you feel a little bit more exposed. But again, these are the best players in the world. They're going to be hitting anywhere from 7 to 5 iron at most. They'll hit a good one. Left bunker is actually okay to a lot of pins. Hit the fairway, try and knock it close, try and make birdie. It's a birdie hole, right? I mean, it's through with driver or one or the other. Depending on what you want to do, and then it's a wedge in. Above the hole is pretty speedy, but nothing those boys can't manage. Doesn't play that long. Yeah, it's like probably helping off like 4 o'clock, or maybe if anything from 3, but I mean, it's a reverse for Dan and it kind of runs out. Obviously it's long. It's going to get a lot of fanfare just with how long it is, but front bunker's not bad because it kind of releases out. You're playing it to the front edge or, a couple yards short. Long left isn't great, but again, those guys chip it so nice. It's a blind chip shot, but you're chipping it back into the wind. And if you go right, you're kind of chipping it back uphill. So it will be, I'm not saying it doesn't have teeth, but it doesn't have the teeth that you might expect. Yeah, I typically take driver and hit a fade over the trees on the left. That's a strategy because the wind is like kind of helping off the left to push it that way. Another one, if you draw it, is to driver through it, kind of the more traditional way. Hit the fairway, turns into a birdie hole. It doesn't play that long because there's like a collection area. It's going to play firm, relatively firm, and I would think fast, unless something's changed since I've been there last. There's like a collection area on the right side of the fairway, where the balls are going to go down and find themselves. I think some of the shorter hitters are going to struggle. Probably have, long irons, maybe even something with graphite in it on the way in. Some of the longer guys are going to have mid irons, maybe even as much as little as like an 8 or a 7 iron. The green's very receptive. Those guys chip it nice. The right bunker's not great, but doable. Left isn't great, doable, but like it's a green that you can kind of knock it up there around. Being a good spot. Fun, interesting thing to watch here. They made the hospitality tent real close. That's right in line with the bunkers, and it's very in play. And I was out there in April, and I made a comment to the GM or whoever was around, and I was like, hey, if you see people in this hospitality area, I would warn them, because your miss is not going to be in the bunker right. It's going to be in this, like, on the left side. My guess is the USGA sees this, and they go, shoot, we may have made a mistake. And they only play it at, like, 620, like, one day. I bet they move it up a little bit and make it reachable. On Saturday, they're going to put it at 78 yards. I don't love it, but it doesn't matter. It's downwind. You're landing on a downslope. This hole, there's a very good chance that this hole gets moaned about at some point. If it gets really firm and, it's really like in a hotter, windier day, I would love to see you put it at like 85 yards just to generate a little bit more speed and a little bit more height so the ball can stop and then you kind of avoid any controversy. But who knows? With the speed of US Open greens, they're double cutting, they're double rolling. Greens lose a little bit of friction, and that's fine because you know what's happening. But when you're above the hole and to play it safe, right? Like you can be like 20, 25 feet left, but then there's a very good chance you could leave it like 6 or 7 short, or potentially even put it off the green. There's just not really anywhere to miss. There's a front right, catcher's mitt pin, there's a back right, and then there's one that's like just over the mound on the left. And the catcher's mitt one, like you could very easily see a 1, which will be super compelling. So yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff going on. Where you can't hit it, right? There's bunkers left, bunkers right, and like it's helping on the right. So like you're gonna smash driver down there and it runs away, right? So it's not like this is a hole where again, like guys on the internet might sit there and say like, oh my gosh, look how hard they're hitting it, 'cause it's gonna go 320. It's like, well, yeah, but it landed at 275, 280, and ran 40 yards, right? And then from there, there's a good chance. I think in the Walker Cup I hit like 6 iron in, and also like, by the way, 540 is from like all the way back. It's not going to play all the way back. The green kind of bowls from the left side and the right. Wind's helping off the left. Like there's short of the green, like there's a bunker that looks like it's like, front guarding the right side, but like there's 25 yards that are short of the green, 25 yards that are short of the green. It doesn't feel as scary as it might look. Yeah, 17 is the real deal. That one, I'll leave my comments aside. 17, left's no good, right's obviously no good. But in a weird way, it almost makes it easier because it's just like, well, there's not really any options. You just grab driver and you try and hit a good one. If you don't, you deal with the consequences, right? And then you hit your second shot. There's a back left pin. It's a challenging one, but you go and hit a couple good ones. So wind will be on the tee ball. It'll be like off the left, and then on the second shot, it'll be from like 9:30, 10 o'clock. It's a very forgiving green, and I'm happy that they brought the no lines back to like what it was. It's a touch wider and a touch more forgiving. I actually think 18 will be a little bit of a birdie hole, just because you're going to have some kind of a long iron, like a mid iron in, like an 8 to a 6 iron. Probably, maybe the shorter guy's 7 to 5, but it's a pretty forgiving green. And, if you're just short of it, everything kind of bowls the middle. So assuming you get your number and your yardage right, like you're going to have, a decent look at birdie. You get a nice shot. Visually, I think it's going to show really well. Certainly from some of the aerial shots, I think the bunkering, the photography, and the Branca are going to show incredibly. I think the membership is really enthusiastic and excited about having our national championship there. So, that's great. I think that everyone's really genuinely fired up about being a part of it. And lastly, I think just from a scoring standpoint, it might play a touch on the easier side. And if it does, that's great. And these are the best players in the world. If they go out and, they hit it where they're looking and they fall out, like they should be rewarded. And I think that the overall feeling and enthusiasm from the event for the course itself is hopefully really gonna show through, and the course will show well, and it'll be a great week.